Hello and welcome to the first episode of GEEKAMANIA. I am your host, Mark Silvester, with my co-host, Ben Upton.
Hello, I'm Ben. Alright, so this is going to be the first episode of GEEKAMANIA where Mark and I talk about all things geek, so everything from music, comics, football occasionally, video games, whatever the hell we feel like, basically. So, transitioning on to that, first thing we have on the list, Mark, you played any games recently?
The only game I really played so far is Mass Effect 3. What about you then, HP?
I still need to work through Mass Effect 3. I kind of stopped playing after like two-thirds of the game recently, and what with them announcing they'll be doing the DLC, I'm kind of saving finishing it until they actually release the modified ending. But yeah, I don't think we should get into that whole ending controversy because we probably won't talk about anything else if we do get into it.
Yes,
But
totally.
yeah, what's your
Indeed,
general opinion of the game overall then?
I really liked it. First time I played it, didn't really watch the ending, so I played through it. But I noticed playing it through the second time, I've actually enjoyed it a lot more because now I'm feeling like I'm just playing it just for the fun of it. I'm not like in the back of my mind thinking, "Oh my god, it's going to be this really bad ending" after hearing everything really bad about it. So
you're not dreading anything or critiquing the game as you go,
no.
which is as games should be.
But the thing about it though, before the ending, it is one of the best games I've played, and it's probably the best Mass Effect game because of the ending. It's made people not like it, and I can see why people wouldn't like it. As at the beginning of the game, it's like you get all these choices, and right at the end, it's like choose between three things, and most of the endings are the same except for one little minuscule second.
Yeah, I mean, I still really liked the first, well, of what I've played of the third game, but at the moment I still prefer the second one just because it was far more character focused and it was more about learning about all these new characters and building them together. And while it didn't really have like a strong like story other than just finding your characters and recruiting them, but yeah, it was still an interesting experience. But yeah, Mass Effect 3 has been good so far. But then again, as I said, I haven't gotten to the bad bits as everyone says.
I agree with you about Mass Effect 2, though. It is probably my favourite game, and only playing from a PS3 perspective, I would never be able to play the first one. But because playing the second and the third one, I really enjoyed the second one for definite because it is a lot to do with the characters, and you feel more connected, and that's why, like the fact Miranda was in the third one, as you felt so connected to these characters, and especially Jacob. It's like these two were so important in number two, and then number three, it's like they only have like a small bit part. It's a bit like you kind of feel like why. I can understand maybe I want to go back to more cats in number one, like with Ashley and that sort of thing. But other than that,
I hated Ashley.
did you?
She's so racist. She hates aliens. Well, she wasn't that racist in the first one, but like they pretty much turned her into a massive racist in the second and third one. Well, not massive, but she's still pretty anti-alien.
What was Rex like in the first one? Because I only really knew him from the third because I never really played much.
Rex was basically there to serve as a vehicle for talking about the Krogan, especially. But the main thing that was interesting about Rex was he was basically just a no-nonsense guy. He was a great fun to have. And there's obviously the huge jokes just where you could have this infinite loop of Shepard, Rex, Shepard, Rex. And people would just do that for hours. I know that I did that for at least a solid 5 minutes just because it was so... It's funny because, for those two words, you almost found more character development than the actual character development.
Totally. It's just how little things can make you laugh. I don't know what you mean there, definitely.
Yeah.
But have you played any games then, Ben?
I have been playing a lot of MOBAs, if you know what MOBA stands for. It's a multiplayer online battle arena.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of like a real-time strategy game.
Mm-hmm.
Only instead of where you're controlling an army and building up resources, you control one particular unit, like a character, like a D&D character's kind of thing. And yeah, I've been playing a lot of Super Monday Night Combat, which is a kind of mashup between MOBAs like League of Legends and Dawn of the Ancients and Team Fortress. So it's a shooter with lots of these MOBA elements. So it's kind of like everyone has very high HP, so it's not like Call of Duty where you're going to be getting sniper headshots and getting kills and knifing people instantly. It's a lot more about pushing ground area control and eventually gaining advantage and destroying their objectives.
Cool, so you haven't been playing what everyone else has been playing recently, like Diablo 3 then, no?
I have not gotten into Diablo at all, no. I was a bit, it's a bit before my time really, but I do like RPGs like that, so I might get into it at some point.
I'm assuming I've never played a Diablo game, but I might do just because it's one of those games which looks quite interesting. It's not like a COD where everyone plays it, but it's just rubbish.
It seems more to be aimed at Diablo fans as well. It doesn't really seem to be like going for the new audience. It's very much more a nostalgia trip, if anything, which is, completely fine. People get a kick out of that. People have gotten a kick out of it. Clearly, it's doing very well. Other than, obviously, the whole problems with DRM and the fact you can only play it online and the huge server issues they're having.
Yes, like error, like I've seen online, error 37, error 37, error 37.
Far too much error 37, yes.
Indeed.
But yeah, that's pretty much all the games I've been playing recently, but it's quite good. I've been playing League of Legends, as I said, which is another MOBA, which is much more MOBA oriented than Super Monday Night Combat. And they're both very good games, and they're both free. So
that's good. Free is the best type of game.
Free is the best price, yes.
Another game you should definitely play. I know it's a mobile game. Is Cut the Rope. That's a good game if you're playing.
Cut the Rope. I've played a little bit of that. The problem with mobile games for me is they're basically suited for mobile phones in that they're nice little snippets of gameplay. But League of Legends is not a little snippet of gameplay. Games last an hour at a time, all the time, pretty much. But yeah, it was good fun.
That's cool.
So yes, on with wrestling. So WWE just had their Over the Limit pay-per-view. So yeah, we'll talk about that. So they kicked off with a over-the-top battle royale. Yeah, it's fairly standard fare really for them, wasn't it? I mean, they had
definitely.
Great Khali in there just chucking people over the top rope. How are they going to get him out of there? And then they chuck him out. And yeah, Christian ended up winning that, which is exactly what we knew would happen as soon as
he came out. Yes.
Yeah, as soon as he came out, and Cole and Jerry started going, "Oh well, Christian's making his big return here." So it's like, okay, so he's going to win. Which he did. No surprise.
Well, he's a good wrestler. One of probably the best wrestlers that they have. So
yeah,
he deserves to win.
Standard fare, nice little warm up for the crowd, basically. And yeah, on to that. Then it was the Fatal 4-Way for the championship, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was it the tag team match next?
I think it might have been. No, it was the tag team championship next, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
With R-Truth, Kofi Kingston versus
Dolph Ziggler
and Jack Swagger.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, a pretty damn solid match. I mean,
brilliant match.
Ziggler's still as brilliant as ever in the ring.
Probably the best bumper in the entire business. The way he can make even the simplest of headbutts look like $1,000 is just a testament to just how good of a wrestler he is.
That guy really knows how to sell moves. It's beautiful. I mean,
very beautiful.
Yeah, it's a shame he's not top card, really. I mean, he's easily king of mid card at the moment. But...
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, and Swagger's just hanging around with him because he's got nothing else to do there.
He was world champion for maybe about a minute, then suddenly nothing done with him since.
Yeah, I mean, he just can't generate heat by himself. That's the problem. They were trying to mould him into this cut angle, and it never really happened.
Not at all.
But Truth and Kofi still entertaining. Truth still as insane as ever.
Yes, and how in WWE it's the only place you can be insane and get over. Most people probably go to Insane Asylum with him. Probably one of the most over wrestlers in WWE.
It's hilarious. A good gimmick. I like it.
Yeah, very good gimmick.
But yeah, so then it was the Fatal 4-Way, which had Chris Jericho in it, Alberto Del Rio, Sheamus, and Orton.
Very, very good match. And Sheamus, I'm glad they're kind of moving away from Daniel Bryan, because with Daniel Bryan, Sheamus was getting booed and Daniel Bryan was getting so over. It didn't really help Sheamus at all. It kind of hindered him, I felt.
They really don't feud that well together. I mean, Sheamus as a whole doesn't feud well with many people. I don't see why they've put him so high. He's very good mid-card, but I'm not sure he's really great top-card.
Maybe it's because he's so good, because he's so unique and he's so different. He's being Irish and being pale. You don't see many pale wrestlers in wrestling, do you? Most of them are like orange or golden, like Randy Orton. He's like glistening. He's always orange. So it's kind of nice to have someone who's at first like, that's a bit weird. He's orange, but now it's white. So, but that's kind of unique that he's pale, because he's the only wrestler that is pale in WWE.
Although the main reason he's probably top card is because he's BFFs with Triple H, because they're sparring partners. But yeah,
but that's a good person to be BFFs. Is Triple H probably will be head of the company when Vince McMahon either retires or dies. And
it's really good for Sheamus. Definitely a good position for him. But yeah, Chris Jericho and Del Rio both amazing in that match, as they always are.
Yes.
And Orton just doing his usual "I'm a badass" thing. And it really highlights how terrible Orton is at promos, when that little promo at the beginning with Jericho, where Jericho's just spewing all this brilliant, sarcastic, dry wit onto Orton, and Orton basically just like, well, no, it'll be you who is good at losing, and also good at being RKO'd. I'm so awesome. He just can't do it. He's just so dry.
But he can back up in the ring, though. He's very good in the ring. Yes, he's very robotic and dry, but he can back up the ring. And it's another reason why he's probably robotic and dry, because that's what WWE wants him to be, and that's why the writers who wrote all the stuff for them gives them all these paragraphs he has to remember. Where I reckon if he... In the olden days, he was never robotic. When he first started with Evolution and stuff, he wasn't robotic at all. He was quite entertaining.
That's the thing. When he was first introduced, he was introduced as a sort of young blood who went straight to the top and just took down all the big names. And it was like, whoa, okay, this is different. They're just suddenly bringing in this one guy who is billed as this unstoppable force. And it was really interesting, and he played up well to it. Definitely. And he has some really, really good striking moves. The problem is that those few moves seem to be the only ones he can do now. There's no variation in it.
He's kind of like, in a way, SmackDown's version of John Cena, where he has 5 moves of doom and then he wins.
I mean, all the other big names, Jericho, Taker, Trips, Punk, they're all innovative. I mean, they still have these standard moves, but they'll always mix it up. Orton, it's fairly similar. I mean, it's clothesline, 5 stomps on the area, does his little pounding on the floor in anger RKO. Move. Yes. Yeah, the DDT, which is so contrived now. I mean, it's making the 619 look believable.
Yes.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, other than that, it was a pretty solid match, regardless of Orton being boring and stale in it. And yeah, then on to the Divas match,
which was actually rather good for a Divas match.
Yeah.
Usually they're known for being quite dull and boring and ending in 1 minute. That match was actually quite competitive, and it lasted a good 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Beth Phoenix and Layla, both actually putting on quite a show. I mean, there was some decent technical wrestling. They both got the finishes off, and it was generally fun.
British or English Divas Women's World Champion as well, which is
good to see a decent Brit actually up top, and actually a decent wrestler and a charismatic entity in there. But
I like the fact that they've made her a face, and how she's actually kind of using more of her accent and using more of her sort of girl next door personality than being with Michelle McCool. She's kind of this bitch, which is kind of basically her in real life, which is good because people like her and they want to cheer for her.
I think the best thing about her Britishness is that they're not actually playing up the fact she's British like they usually do.
Yes.
They're not having a pose of tea and crumpets quite yet.
Nah, but they probably will do at some point. Yeah. And someone else's English was nice to see him back. William Regal, that was cool seeing back on TV.
Yes, that was the best thing about the Battle Royale. I completely slipped my mind, but seeing William Regal in action was really nice again.
Yeah, because he does commenting for FCW with Jim Ross, and most people say it's probably the best commenting that they've had in ages, and that's something else that we need to improve on.
Regal is so good on the mic, and again, he's a really good impact in the ring. He's a nice, brawly wrestler.
Who helped train Daniel Bryan.
He's
or Bryan Danielson.
And Punk. Yes. There was a beautiful moment in the Royal Rumble a couple of years ago where it was just Punk, Bryan, and Regal all in the ring, and they were just having a little European uppercut war. It's beautiful.
That was so cool.
But yes, not talking about Regal. So what came after that? Was that the that must be the Intercontinental Championship match, which was a very nice match.
Very good match, and I'm glad they kind of turned Christian heel face. Sorry, I've always liked Christian, even as a heel and a face. I'm glad that they've kind of made him face, because it now means people can actually appreciate him for just how good he actually is.
I still wish they'd give him a proper championship run, because that whole run after Edge left was so half-hearted and so cheap. It was more an affront to the fans, if anything. It was like, okay, we'll give the championship to him just as a token to him, and then we'll just piss you off by just giving it to a better reaction.
Same as Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder at one point was one of the most over people in the company. Everyone wanted him, and then suddenly now, because of terrible booking,
they simply buried him. I mean, that wasn't them, just saying, "Oh, okay, we'll give him this." They buried him literally. They just threw him under the train to Kane.
Yes. And also it kind of says to the fans that, we're not going to support people that you like. Yeah. We only support people that we made and we like. So it's kind of like in the olden days when you used to BT. I know everyone goes back to the Attitude Era, but during that time, if he would have been huge, because at that time they wanted people to be over, so as he was, he would have been maybe as popular, even more popular than the New Age Outlaws.
Yeah, I mean, the main problem with the WWE at the moment is they don't like the internet.
Yes.
They don't like how clever we are and how we can see right through them. And Vince seems to just hate us and think that anything we produce or think is good, that he must destroy, because we are wrong.
Technically, he kind of loves the internet. He loves Twitter.
He loves Twitter, but that's only because, it's positive press and it's buzz for us. But that's about as far as he can throw us.
Indeed it is.
But yeah, other than that, I really wish they'd push Cody up to top card. Because he's so much better than mid-card. He really could be.
Yeah, really is. And he could always live on to his dad's name. I feel kind of bad for other wrestlers who kept changing names, like Michael McGillicuddy, who's the son of Mr. Perfect. And why not give him his name Henning?
Well, the main reason for that was because they were kind of trying to shape Ziggler into this Mr. Perfect, but then they realised that really wasn't the best route to go with him.
No, not at all. And wasn't the next match best than that match of the night between Punk and Daniel Bryan, or was it afterwards?
The main event, the highlight. Not the other main event. That doesn't exist. This is the main event.
Yeah, this was the main event. If they should have had this match on last year, I know Cena's the poster boy WWE, but at the same time though, it's the World Championship, it's the WWE Championship. You've been saying it's just the main championship. Everyone wants to be the champion, but at the same time, it's kind of saying you don't have to be the champion as long as you make the most money. You'll always be the main eventer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's fine. I'm fine with that. The championship can and should be used as a way of building people up, and they're doing a very good job of building Punk up at the moment, which I like. But the crowd was so into that match that night.
They were
beautiful,
so
the
good.
Chants.
They were so good with this is awesome, and everyone going yes and no. Those two are probably the two best wrestlers I've seen
in the company,
years.
at least.
Yeah, in the company, yeah. Punk's always been my favourite. When I went to see them live at the O2, Punk came out, was just over. Daniel Bryan was just hugely over, and when we were leaving, probably the same when we went to Miami, Ben, was that everyone was going yes, like yes. when they left, it was hilarious.
Yes, chants abound, yeah, but I've seen there were some beautiful submissions in that match, to the state where I'm almost stuttering over my words because they were that good. But
like the one when Daniel Bryan put Punk in some sort of
surfboard stretch.
Yes.
They did a proper surfboard stretch, which I haven't seen in ages, which is lovely. And just the figure four as well, the little slap war they had during the figure four.
Yes, and the bit when the flying closeout was pretty cool, and the tribute to Macho Man Randy Savage, which has been a year and 2 days.
He's incorporated into his moveset. Probably standard now, and it works very well for him. Gets a Randy Savage chant nearly every time.
Well. Of course, and I think that probably did it mostly because it was a year since it happened that day, so it was kind of a nice tribute to Macho Man Randy Savage, who was probably one of the best wrestlers of all time. Do you remember Macho Man Savage?
Unfortunately, it was kind of before I got into wrestling, so I didn't really know of him, but I've seen bits of him now, and I absolutely love his promos. I don't know what that guy was on, but it was beautiful.
And the funny thing as well, though, apparently people said in interviews about him, that was actually his real voice as well. It wasn't like...
So he wasn't putting on, oh yeah, I'm the creep. So he just... So he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a cup of coffee and put the milk in it and 2 sugars and drink it. And now I'm sounding like Bill Cosby. But hey, enough of me doing funny voices my own amusement. But yeah, no. I remember watching a YouTube clip of a promo Randy Savage did for a cage match. I think it was with Hulk Hogan. But he was behind the steel cage bars with a diva I can't remember the name of, and Zeus, I think, this giant black guy.
Oh, you're thinking of Sherry Martel, that's it.
Yeah, and throughout the whole promo, Zeus is just going, oh, yeah, flexing his muscles like a madman, whilst what was the diva's name again?
Sherry, Sensational Sherry or Scary
Sherry.
Sherry.
Yeah, and she's just climbing up and down the cage, going, "You don't know where we'll be. You don't know." And Randy Savage just constantly just going, "Oh yeah, and I'm gonna take you, and I'm gonna burn you, and I'm gonna break you, and you won't know where I'll be because it'll be 4 sides of steel." Still, my Randy Savage impression sounds like Bill Cosby. I don't know why.
Yes. Oh yeah. Love you, Macho Man.
It would be much funnier if Randy Savage and Bill Cosby did a bit.
Yeah.
Shame that will never happen now.
But they might do one day.
Yes, and now after that reminiscing, we come to the rotten egg of the bunch.
Yes, John Cena versus John Laurinaitis, or as some people call him, John Laryngitis.
Battle of the Johnnies, and what a terrible match that was.
I know.
I just don't understand why they wanted to do that. I mean, as soon as they introduced the whole, "Oh yeah, you'll be fired if you lose this match," we knew he was going to win. It's going to be Cena.
And then we knew when they fired a Big Show, we knew Big Show was going to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, that was.
And I know it's supposed to be storyline, but the sense that they had Big Show punch Cena knocked out, but when Brock Lesnar did it, was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm smiling about it." But Big Show was like, "I'm dead."
Well, it's easily because that's his finisher. And a punch from Brock Lesnar is not a finisher. That's just how he deals with things.
That's true. Well, the kind of way it kind of makes it seem like, I guess Vince McMahon wants to make people think, "Oh, UFC is nothing compared to WWE."
I think you're making the mistake of trying to apply logic to wrestling.
That is true.
Which is something one should never do, or you will go insane.
It is indeed. But in the older days, we used to be the Attitude Era. I know, going back to that, and yes, it's probably the best wrestling period of all time. But at least that had some logic. Yes, some bits were stupid, but at the same point, it did have logic. Maybe Vince McMahon's going older. Maybe it's because there's no real competition for them anymore. So it
had a semblance of logic, but Oh yeah, and then we had, completely forgot, there was the Miz versus Funkasaurus match.
Yes.
Where Miz did a surprisingly good Thriller dance.
He did, but at the same time though, Brodus Clay is over.
He is hugely over, which is, it's a shame he's been saddled with this gimmick really, because he's actually quite a good wrestler.
Yes.
You can see it from the way, he's got some damn good moves on him, and he's quick.
And the only problem with him apparently was he was quite stiff, which is like, don't you want wrestlers to be stiff? Because then people kind of make it seem...
Stiff is bad, really bad in wrestling, because if you've got a stiff wrestler, that means stiff is kind of lingo for basically they're not very flexible and they're more likely to injure people.
That's true, but wrestlers like Vader and Samoa Joe, they were known as being quite stiff, and they were very quick and good at wrestling.
See,
I guess it's
they have a good reputation in ring for being entertaining, but the problem is they're quite hard to work with and dangerous to work with, because obviously you do not want your talent injured.
That is true.
You really do not, especially if this is a big name like The Rock.
Yes.
In his heyday, if The Rock got injured, taken out for 6 months, that's your big money maker out of the scene for 6 months, and you do not want that as a business owner.
Not at all. I see what you mean there, yeah. But
yeah, no, it's... so John Laurinaitis Cena was pretty much just a straight-up squash with supposed to be funny stuff, but Cena's not that funny. Really.
Nah.
He has his moments. And that was a weird stutter. Again, stupid noises coming from me. But hey. I think that pretty much wraps up a mixed bag of a pay-per-view.
Yes, I'll probably maybe give it a 6 or a 7 out of 10, maybe. If I'm being nice, maybe 7, because of the Punk. If there was no Punk versus Daniel Bryan match, I don't think it would have been as good as a pay-per-view as it was. Yeah,
I mean, watch that one match. That's basically all it's worth. But
yes.
It's not one to buy the DVD unless you really liked that match.
That is true. That's why I bought Money in the Bank last year, because of the Punk match, because it was just so good and Punk was just amazing, because he is.
I wonder do you know what's happening with the Money in the Bank pay-per-view this year? Whether they're actually doing one? Because I remember originally the plan was to have a Money in the Bank match at Mania, but they cancelled that because Barrett got injured, and he was the one who was paid to win it.
They might do, I guess, this year, but you never know.
Maybe when Barrett comes off of injury, they'll pop one in there somewhere.
Yeah, they brought back the No Way Out, so maybe they could do this next year. But I heard rumours going around that they were going to replace Survivor Series with Money in the Bank. But,
really? Survivor Series, but Survivor Series is a long-running one for them, isn't it, surely?
Yeah, but apparently doesn't make many buys, but at the same time, though, it's kind of like, well, with the match they had at last year's Survivor Series main event, Of course, none bothered because they knew The Rock and Cena were going to win because they basically...
Because it's The Rock and Cena.
And they also obliterated R-Truth and what both of them, R-Truth and The Miz, singly. So it's kind of like why people want to buy it because they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and it was always just going to be like the slighted blow between, are they going to turn on each other? It's like, well, yeah, but only after the match they're really going to do it.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's probably us nattering on about wrestling for enough, so...
Indeed. Next we got Chelsea winning the Champions League. Because I, being a massive Chelsea fan, as my nickname is the Blue Line Gamer, I watched the match on Saturday night, and it was probably at the time one of the most not terrifying, but nervous experience I've ever had. The penalty shootout, as Ben, you saw it as well, didn't you?
I saw it. I caught it after my job, yeah.
Was just so nerve-wracking and just so like, oh my god, what's going to happen? It was just horrible. Then again, penalty shootouts are probably one of the worst things if you're a supporter of one of the teams that's playing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, as someone who had no emotional investment in the match at all, I just found it funny just how clearly distraught the Chelsea fans were over when they were down a goal. And I was just sitting back and laughing. And then when... I do not know the German gentleman's name, missed that shot.
Schweinsteiger? Can't pronounce his name.
Schweinsteiger. That's me doing a very bad German accent. You can tell I didn't do German in GCSE, quit that after year 9. Quite happily. But yeah, that was... I just laughed my head off, but that's just because I don't really care about football too much.
And also as well, though, it's funny because we, as an English team, finally beat a German team in penalties. It's like
yes,
never
which
happens
doesn't happen.
Because Germans are known for being good penalties, and
we're known for being terrible.
Yes. And when Drogba scored that penalty and the goal, I was screaming my head off, going yes, chanting the Dan O'Brien yes, and it was just probably I can watch it back happily knowing what happened, but at the time I was praying to the Lord. I was just so nervous and watching it. And now I've probably watched the goal, the penalty shootout, the match, the parade, the celebrations probably about 56,000 times since.
So you're a little bit into them then?
Yes. I love my Chelsea Football Club.
You're a little bit of a Chelsea geek, whereas I don't really like football, but I'll leave that. It's fine.
That's cool. Next, we'll talk about films.
Films, yes.
Let's talk about today favourite 5 films of all time.
Favourite films? Do you want to go first or shall I?
Do you want to go first, or shall we? Whilst we do it, rather than doing the top 5 to 1, might just talk about it in no particular order.
Yeah.
Do you want to do one, then I do one, or do you want to do all 5 at the same time?
Well, one of my personal favourite films of all time is easily Scott Pilgrim, of course, directed by Edgar Wright. But again, this is mainly just because I am a huge fan of the comics by Brian Lee O'Malley. As you can tell, because I remember the author's name, which no one remembers the author's name of Scott Pilgrim. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Edgar Wright's film work as a rule anyway, and pretty much everything he's done. Yeah, I mean, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, both great. Spaced, also very good, the TV series, if you've seen that.
Bits of it here and there.
But great geek film anyway as well.
That's cool. One of my favourite films of all time has to be the first Ninja Turtles film, which is just an awesome film. Yeah, a lot of people say it's a Ninja Turtle film, but if you watch it back, it's actually a very good film. You got the story, you've got emotion, you got some cool action scenes, and it's a Ninja Turtles. What else can you ask for?
Well, much like my love of Scott Pilgrim, you're a big Turtles fan as well.
I am
indeed.
Obviously
help. Another one of my favourite films. Probably going to go for an anime film here by Hayao Miyazaki, Laputa, Castle in the Sky. I don't know if you heard of this, but... I
think I've heard of it. Is that the one where she turns into some sort of weird cat, or is that something else I'm thinking of?
No, I think that might be Kiki's Delivery Service. Not sure, but yeah, it's the basic story is boy lives in this strange world where like airplanes and stuff are quite commonplace. It's kind of old medieval style. And yeah, he goes on a magical journey to find a castle in the sky, and it's a very nice fairy tale, happy, fun film.
Is it a Studio Ghibli film?
It's a Studio Ghibli film, yes. Yeah, Hayao Miyazaki is the head of Studio Ghibli, yeah.
Ah, cool. So isn't Studio Ghibli kind of Japan's version of Walt Disney, or they do lots of stuff with Walt Disney?
They have been called Japan's Walt Disney a lot, but Hayao Miyazaki hates that name. Really hates that name, because he sees himself as nothing to do with Disney, even though he's good friends with John Lasseter, head of Pixar. He was basically the man who was single-handedly saving Disney at the moment.
Yeah, Pixar are fantastic. Wall-E, another good film I love. It's not one of my favourite films, is Wall-E. That's a great film, but my second favourite film of all time, and just in general, would probably be Terminator 2, just because it's probably one of the best films of all time, and I could happily watch that film back and be like, yeah, this film's amazing. It's one of those films, even though it was made in 1991, it's not out of date like with
It holds
Terminator
up
1.
today, yeah.
With Terminator 1, you can tell that there's some bits which kind of look out of date, but with Terminator 2, it's just fantastic, and it's just amazing. These special effects and it were amazing in it for its time. Even now, just the acting. Yeah, no, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you know he's known for being a robot, so it's kind of good for him. And it's just got one of the greatest lines of all time: "Hasta la vista, baby."
Also, one of the most overused lines of all time.
Yes, but the first one had one of the most overused lines of all time. I'll be back.
Yeah, they're very quotable films as a rule. But yeah, my next favourite film, probably going to go for Fight Club. I mean, even if you know the twist, that film is beautifully crafted in just pretty much the set design. The characters are all very likeable, strangely, even though they're all very, very dark characters. But yeah, I mean, that's the first film I saw that really got me into films. And just like, oh my god, this stuff really is art. But hey, I'm fairly young, so obviously there's still a lot of arty films out there I've yet to see. But yeah, very good film.
Next film I love is probably Empire Strikes Back, just because, yeah, I know he's kind of ruined them and made them a bit like, added all this stuff to them, but the Empire Strikes Back was just an amazing film, and for its time, it probably had one or if the biggest
reveals
of all time. It was just insane when he said, "Luke, I'm your father." Everyone was like, "Oh my god!" But now it's not as powerful.
Well, it's commonplace now because it's so ingrained in our pop culture.
Yes.
Just that Darth Vader is Luke's father. That back then, that's a shocking reveal.
Yeah, and when I let one of my friends borrow the Blu-rays of all six, I told her to watch episode 4, 5 and 6 first, just because they are that good. And honestly, if anyone wants to watch Star Wars, watch 4, 5 and 6 first, then 1, 2 and 3. Because 1, 2 and 3 aren't as good, and then the reveal or the revelation won't be as powerful as if you watch 1, 2 and 3, because then you would have known, oh, actually, he's the father, so it's not as like, oh my god, he's the father.
Yeah.
And yes, I know the original trilogy is kind of not as good looking as the newer 3, but it's all about the story. And you've got characters like Han Solo, who is one of the greatest characters of all time.
Yeah. Oh god, reaching into the harder parts of my top 5. What else do I really, really like as a film? I quite liked Drive. I'm not sure if it's right up there, but it's kind of overplayed that everyone loved Drive, but it was a very, very solid film.
I agree with you. Drive was probably another one of my favourites. I love that film. Saw it 3 times at the cinema. Was fantastic. Even though we both work at cinema, it's kind of get to see it for free. But it was probably one of the best films I've seen.
The highlight of that film for me, definitely, was the soundtrack. Yeah. The soundtrack to that film is very, very good, and it's still annoying me that it's becoming so. What's the word? Just
commercial?
Yes, commercial, exactly that.
Like they use it in one of the adverts for some phone, which is one of the songs.
Which I had to say annoyed me a little bit.
And when they use Real Hero for the Love film advert, don't they use it for that?
Yes. It's very annoying because they're playing on a very good soundtrack and kind of just commercialising it and exploiting it, which is annoying, but hey, it's all true. That happens. Annoyingly.
That's true, man, but I agree with you there. And I also like the fact that it kind of felt like a live-action version of Vice City, but with the setting and the drive, it's how it's written. It's very much like Vice City and the soundtrack.
Yes, it's very, very, 80s in its feel.
Yes.
And at the same time, very modern.
And I'll be honest with you, at first I was a bit like, Drive, yeah, it's a great film, but I didn't really like Ryan Gosling. But now when you watch it back for the second and third time and you see why he's like this, you can actually, then you realise just how good of a film it is. Like, yes, Ryan Gosling is rather quiet to himself, but that's his character. He's supposed to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the storytelling does come directly from, the lyrics of the songs in the background. That tells a lot of the emotions that's going on in the film. There's very little dialogue in it.
And if you didn't realise as well, Irene was actually Latina, but they changed her to be white because Karen Mulligan was to be in it.
Oh, okay.
So, quite an interesting story.
Oh, yeah, your next one? Or is this your last one? Is it? No, I just said Drive.
No, I said Drive as well.
Did you? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Drive on 4th. This is your 5th.
Fifth one. Probably something I studied in my film studies A level would be a western called Once Upon a Time in the West, which is a very, very, very good modern western. I say modern. It's like late 90s, early 2000s, I think.
It's quite modern, considering westerns are mostly made in the 40s, 50s,
yes,
60s.
but very, very good. There's a huge length before the film starts where there's no dialogue, and it's just a very, very good western, really haunting soundtrack.
Who's it star? Is it the one with Johnny Depp, or was I thinking of something else?
Johnny Depp's not in it, no. I can't remember any of the actors that are in it.
No, I'm thinking Once Upon a Time in Mexico. That's probably thinking of Johnny Depp.
Yeah, but it's a very, very good film. Really highly recommend it. If you're looking for a good western, it's brilliant. Yeah, so is that all the films out? I think that's all.
I've got to do one more for me, haven't I?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, God, I can't think of one. That's really, really hard. Probably The Godfather, probably be my fifth. Just because it's such a great film, and watching it with Marlon Brando, he's probably one of the best performances that he's done, and just the fact it's so iconic and everyone who's seen it knows of it. And yeah, I know the horse's head's a bit, and people might not like it, but it's such a main story because it's kind of saying you don't mess with the Godfather, and if you don't pay up, you lose. But it's such a good film. Maybe an honourable mention would probably be Batman, maybe the 1970 by Tim Burton, The Dark Knight. They're both good films as well.
I think I'd probably retract Drive from my list and add Memento, because I really, really like Memento.
Yes, I like Memento as well, but that film was so confusing.
I managed to keep up to track with it, but that's mainly because I was watching it in my film studies class, and basically they told us, right, so this section's go in this order, this section's go in this order, this section's go in this order.
Oh, I did it in my games development course to watch the film, and we never told us, we just watched it. It's just like, what's going on? Same thing well with Black Swan. I found that rather confusing.
Yeah, you can kind of work out the timelines because they do something fairly subtle in that the sections that are all in colour are going in one way through time. So, like, the sections in colour start from the back and go to the front, whereas the sections in black and white go from the front back.
Ah, okay.
So you've got the colour sections start from the very end of the story, but they're right at the beginning. So they're working towards the beginning, whilst the black and white sections are working from the beginning going towards the end, and they meet up in the middle.
That's quite interesting.
And you get the whole story that way. So yeah, it's a subtle distinction that not many people notice, but when you work out, it makes it a lot easier to distinguish.
That's true. Like, I know a lot of people found in sections to be quite confusing, but I honestly wasn't confused at all. The only bit I was confused about was maybe the bit where it was like the Japanese guy became good, and it was like I thought it was a bad guy. Otherwise, I got it straight away. I love the fact how each dream affected each thing.
Yeah, Inception was much simpler than Memento. But the main reason the Asian guy turned good was because the whole reason they were infiltrating his mind in the first place, he set that up because he wanted to test how good they were. So that's why he then hired them. So he wasn't really a good guy. He was just trying to hire them to do something.
Ah, okay. That's quite interesting.
Oh, yes. Is that it? Oh, yes, music is our next topic. So, what music have you been listening to, Mark?
Mostly the Chelsea soundtrack, considering I'm a huge Chelsea fan. We won the Champions League. And like stuff like Killswitch Engage and a bit of Queen because We Are the Champions and that sort of thing, really. Just because We Are the Champions is such an iconic song that it can be used for anything. It can be used for football, wrestling. They could probably use it for anything. They could probably use it for someone who wins like a StarCraft tournament or a tournament at... What's the huge Evo? That's it. Evo. Probably used for someone who won at Evo. That song is so iconic. They can use it for anything.
It is a good song. It's Queen. It's going to be classic anyway. So basically, celebratory music for you then.
Totally, yes. And Killswitch Engage because I love CM Punk and that was his whole theme tune. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been listening to Tenacious D's new album that just came out a couple of weeks ago. Rise of the Phoenix. It's pretty good. I'm still trying to work out where it places with the other Tenacious D albums. At the moment, I'd say it's probably better than Pick of Destiny, but it's not really going to beat Tribute. It's going to be that album's almost impossible to follow. But yeah, it's quite interesting. It's very personal, which is surprising for a Tenacious D album. Well, there's obviously still the songs about women and drugs and stupid arguments, but most of it is about funnily enough, Jack Black's Hollywood career.
That's
and
quite
how that
interesting.
Skyrocketed off, and Kyle's been left in the dust pretty much.
He has, hasn't he? Completely left in the dust, Kyle. You never hear much about him.
No.
He cameoed in some of Jack Black's earlier films, but now you never hear much of him. I'm glad that he's still part of Tenacious D and he still kind of has his foot on the ground. It's not like he's let all the fame unfortunately gone to his head, he's still part of Tenacious D, and it's still important to him.
One of the best songs about this is called "The Ballad of Hollywood Jack and the Rage Cage," and it's just a sweeping epic about how Kyle Gass slowly goes insane whilst Jack soars to the heavens, and eventually Jack comes back and they reform together and forge onwards as friends. But yeah, it's a fun thing, and obviously there's stupid songs which are also very fun, like Death Star, which is about them.
Star Wars?
No, it's not about Star Wars. It's about them wanting to build a Death Star and go up and live out in outer space because the planet at the moment is all crap and disgusting.
That's
so
hilarious.
We're going to go and build a Death Star, but I don't know how to build a Death Star, so I've hired a nerd and paid him to work out how to do that because there's like vacuums in space.
That is so cool.
But yeah, it's a fun album, but
Tribute is still Tribute is still one of the best.
Yeah, I mean,
songs.
if you want a Tenacious D album, get that one first because that is so funny, and a lot of people just like think of just Tribute, but the whole of that album is really solid. There's some very funny sketches in it. But yeah, it's good stuff. I'd highly recommend it. It's definitely worth a buy. I think it's like $7.99 on iTunes, which is fairly
That's
standard.
not bad, and probably on Amazon probably get it quite cheap, maybe with £4 or £5
because Amazon can sell things for ridiculously cheap because they buy things
like
in bucket loads.
12 years old now? Is it like 12 years old, that album? Maybe like 13 years? Because I know it came out in the early 2000s. Because I remember Tribute was quite big in 2001, I believe it was.
Yeah, no, it actually probably is fairly old, yeah. Because Pick a Destiny must have came out about, what?
2006, wasn't it?
6 years ago, yeah, because I was about 14 at that time, yeah.
Because it came out around with a film, wasn't it? Because the film helped, yeah.
Yeah, the film was basically the album. The album was the film.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, anything that film missed was the song Tribute. Oh, and also the song Tribute.
No, I really liked that film. A lot of people bashed it, but I'm a big Tenacious D fan, and I still am. So that made no sense. But hey, but yeah, no, I really like that film. Where a lot of people bashed it. It's one of the few musicals I enjoyed when I was 14. Obviously, now I'm older and wiser, I enjoy far more.
Yeah, of course. Some musicals are very good. Like We Will Rock You is probably one of the best musicals.
Yeah, I mean, I hated Grease for a long time because it's girly and not very manly. But now I listen to it, it's quite fun.
And it is actually quite manly because you got the cool car chase, you got them all in the cool leather and all.
It's really not manly. It's really camp.
I know, but it's still good.
It's wonderful camp.
Yes, it's fun camp. It's kind of like I know bad, but Glee, which is quite camp, but a lot of people like it.
Glee is surprisingly good. The thing that saves it is its surprisingly mature writing at times.
Yes.
The thing that kills it, if anything, is the surprisingly immature writing at times.
Yeah, of course.
Plot lines about a grilled bit of cheese that looks like Jesus, and that being a major plot point. Stuff like that.
But it's kind of good that they can have one episode which is rather serious and quite dramatic, like when Kurt's father had the heart attack, and then the next minute they had the grilled cheese thing.
It is good that they have that kind of balance, yeah. But I do prefer the more serious episodes, which have light-hearted moments in them.
Yeah, definitely. Like Silvester, I know it's the same name as me, but I think she's probably the best character in the whole show.
She's a brilliant antagonist.
She's very, very good.
Crafted. It's just her huge monologues about how she goes along with Abraham Lincoln and kills Nazis, stuff like that. It's just brilliantly crafted.
And the way she mentions about Will's hair is hilarious as well. I love stuff like that, and also I love the fact how nicknames for all the people like Porcelain and Asian 1 and Asian 2 and stuff like that. It's just, yes, it's racist and terrible, but it's just funny because in real life she's gay herself, so it's kind of funny. Same with Sacha Baron Cohen, where he's very Jewish in real life, but he takes the right piss out of him, out of Jews, because he can, because he knows what it's like, and it's kind of doesn't really mind it.
If you can't make fun of yourself, what can you make fun of?
That is true.
So yeah, I think that's about it for our podcast today. So we'll wrap it up there. So I've been Ben Upton.
And I've been Mark Silvester, and that's been GEEKAMANIA. And remember, anything can be geeky.
Join us next time.